So I'm going to pull up this Dr. Jiang video. I got into Dr. Jiang. I liked him a lot. When I first found him, he made that video about going to war with Iran. He made it like a year before it happened. The at Predictive History guy, if you've never seen him, claims to teach in China. He's got a little Chinese flag at the top of his board. Raised in Canada, I believe. Educated at Yale Law School. I just would like to see. Let's use a little AI together just to get a list here. Hang on one second. Let's look up government officials educated at Harvard or at Yale. Use Duck AI here. There was a whole Wikipedia page on it. Bill Clinton. George H.W. Bush. Here, let's just put it up here so you can see it. Share this tab instead. Zoom in here. Government officials educated at Yale. Bill Clinton. George H.W. Bush. We got two presidents. John Kerry, U.S. Secretary of State. Eliot Spitzer, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice. Condoleezza Rice, Secretary of State. David, how do you say that guy's name? Sawyer, Supreme Court Justice. They keep going. There's lots of them. Yeah. I've always heard it as a hotbed of deep state, CIA people. I'm trying to think. I think it was Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson that said that's one of the main pipelines to the intelligence agencies is out of Yale. So Dr. Jiang got a English degree, I think English literature degree from Yale. He says in an interview, I think it was with Kurt Metzger, he said, I got very lucky, He'd said things that were pretty much like, he had one lecture on Germany in the 1930s, 1940s, and he said something to the effect of a choose your own number type comment. I thought that was interesting. He's very much into esoteric stuff. He's got lectures on everything. If you look at his predictive history page, let's pull it up here because I got to find it to comment on this video anyway because we're going to go through it. Let's make this not big anymore. Oh man, whenever I quit sharing, then I gotta click the button again, so that's okay. Anyway, this is his page, his predictive history page. Pax Judaica, he's all about Israel's gonna take over the Middle East, and there's nothing you can do about it because materialism isn't real. The Communist Party of China is wrong, and religion is actually the most powerful thing on the planet. But he has lots of secret history, Empire of Evil. He's got just basic kind of like Sophocles. He goes all through history, Greek history, Buddhism, David of Israel, Empire of God. These are classes he is supposedly giving in China. Sometimes he'll film students like that he has. Here's some of his students, supposedly. There's like 5 of them. I've never seen him teaching in a big old class. I don't exactly understand what kind of class this is in China. It appears, if it is a class in China, it appears to be with the richest children of China. Is this an international school? Why are they all speaking English in China? A little sus to me. Becoming exceedingly sus to me with the release of his newest video. Let me find it here. Right here. The Communist Spectre. That's it. This video. I'm not going to go through the whole thing on this one. I might do that maybe next week for my political stream. I'm at 37 minutes here, 37:21. I just want to do the short clip version today. And then I'll do the long version next week. So if you want to be notified of that, subscribe so you can see when it pops up next week. But let's just look at the clip version today. Someone took this 55-minute lecture and squishes it down into, I think he squished it down into maybe 10 minutes. He's got all these clip channels now. But I just want you to, this clip channel alone has 580,000 subs, okay? His predictive history channel has 1.27 million subs now. Just unbelievable growth. When I first saw him in the summer, right when he was gaining traction, I think he maybe had 30,000. So he's up to 1.2 million. I mean, if you're not being pushed, I don't think that kind of growth is organic and legit. I'll be honest. He made this really weird video. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was about, he said he went back to Canada and his kids are playing in the background of the playground at the time. And, you know, my kids are in my videos sometimes too. It's not the weirdest thing, but I would never give a speech about, he said one of his kids was acting up inside the pool. And so he spanked him in public. And it was enough that some of the people watching decided to call the police, more or less. I don't know if they called the police or if it was just some lifeguards at the pool that they were at decided to like do somewhat of a citizen's arrest, more or less, until the authorities showed up and made sure the kids were okay. Now, maybe it's because I was raised in rural America and I'm not really a stranger to little swats in the Walmart. But I mean, man, you must have really freaked people out with your discipline. Or his kind of point was, well, these people are just Chinese, or these people are just Canadian. They're liberal Canadians and they don't understand traditional Chinese culture where we got, spare the rod, spoil the child. Evidently, the backlash in his comments, he was saying he was going to sue whoever it was in Canada. And the response in his comments was so overwhelmingly negative that he decided to take the video down. And I was like, what is this? If I put on my tinfoil hat, is this signaling something to like conservative America that you should listen to me? Because I'm like you. I also am not against corporal punishment. Is that what it was? What was it? Because now he's taken this new track of Israel is going to win and they're going to take over the world. Professor Jiang here, Secret History and Pax Judaica. And don't believe in Marxism, kids. The responses to his Marxism post are just overwhelmingly like, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. I would call it Marxism 101, but that would be an offense to Marxism 101. It's more like Marxism 050, maybe. 0050. Let's find him. Jiang. Communism. See if I can find that little clip. What Marx got wrong. Communist specter. Consumerism. Why Marx was wrong about communism. Explained by Professor Jiang. I don't know if that's the exact one I watched. I thought this would be very easy to find. Let's look through the history here real quick. Why is your history in YouTube? I swear it is never exactly what you looked at. It's usually hiding stuff. I'm going to try one more time. I don't want to do the big long one. I know it was in the clips channel. We could do the economic corner one. I don't know. I might just do this next week so I can find the exact one that I watched. I'm going to look in here just real quick. I'll just do this one that comes up. They're all the same.
Communism created a lot of wars and it led to a lot.
Okay. Hang on. It's all right. I'm going to find it. I'm not going to give up on the one that I was looking for. I want to find it. I know it's here. Oh, I did it. Let's see. I made a playlist. I remember now. I made a playlist and I put it in. Let's see. For streaming. That I was going to comment on it. Let's do A to Z. I'm gonna find it. I'm not gonna give up on it. I don't care if I look stupid looking for it. I'm not giving up on it. But yeah, it's just kind of disappointing because I really like this guy. And then I just kept getting the feeling like, kind of like Jordan Peterson, very much like that. I'm like, this guy is being sold to me to subtly push me away from thinking China is doing anything good and from exploring class politics in any way. Communism was capitalism's greatest trick. We found it, people. Here it is. So let's go through this together.
Communism.
All right. Here we go. And I'm going to comment on this. I've studied Marxism in depth for a decade plus now. So let's see what this guy has to say.
Communism and capitalism are actually more similar than they are different. In fact, what I will show you is that In many ways, communism is a creation of capitalism as a weapon to destroy capitalism's major enemies. All right, so let us now think about this. And again, this is all just speculation on my part, okay? I don't really know. I'm saying, like, why is this happening? Why?
Well, at least he says that. Because I'm pretty sure you don't know, dude. But it tells me a lot that you're being drawn to this sort of speculation.
Is this the correlation, right? All right, so an example is Karl Marx. And Karl Marx, of course, is the founder of communism. And the history of Karl Marx is like really, really strange. So, for example, he is a German citizen, but he spent all his time in Britain. He was exiled from Germany because he advocated for a world revolution. So he went to Britain. But Britain is also a capitalistic country.
I don't know if that's exactly correct either. I mean, he got ran out of Germany because he advocated for world revolution. I don't think that's why he ran out of Germany. I think because he was running a magazine that was against the Kaiser and was in favor of freedom of speech. If I remember correctly, it wasn't because he was in favor of world revolution. So right off the bat there.
So why is it that he's allowed to do whatever he wants in Britain? He wrote most of his works in the British Library, in the British Museum.
So after he got ran out of Germany, he then went to Paris. He got ran out of Paris for being a revolutionary. And then he settled in London. And he wrote his books in the library? It was the London Library, whatever it was. I mean, he was writing these giant books that, no one's going to read that at the time. Like, Capital's like 700 pages. And the important thing to remember is that the British prided themselves on their empire being so powerful, kind of like America today. Their empire being so powerful that we can allow dissidents. You can write those books, man. It doesn't matter. Nothing's going to overthrow us. It's kind of like in America today. There's a lot of hubris going on, right? That's why I have a YouTube channel, and lots of other people like me have a YouTube channel. The empire's so big and so powerful, nothing I say is going to hurt it. But maybe it's Karl Marx is a giant British conspiracy. That's what Jiang's going to tell you.
So why did the British authorities allow him to do that? Okay, that's a question for us, right? Britain is the most capitalist country in the world at this time, in the 19th century. And Britain basically allowed Marx to live there and do whatever he wants. Okay, that's strange. Number two is Karl Marx. Where did he get his money from, okay? So Karl Marx, actually his wife is a German aristocrat. So she's used to luxury. But Karl Marx never made any money in his life, right? If he writes these works, the Communist Manifesto, that's Capital, no one's gonna read them. They don't sell, right? So he's not a wealthy person. But we know for a fact that he actually lived a very good life.
You just answered your first question, Jiang. If they don't sell, then that's why Britain doesn't care if he lives there and writes those books. So your second point is already negating your first point. His wife, Ginny, was raised in money as an aristocrat. She married Marx knowing that he wasn't going to be rich. Engels gave Marx most everything he had, but I mean, they did not live. He goes on to say Marx lived like a nice middle-class lifestyle. That is not true. They were constantly being hounded by creditors. His son died, and they didn't even have enough money for a proper funeral. Like he had to keep his son's body in a casket in his living room for multiple nights. I can't remember how long it was, but it was a while, a sad while. This is He just doesn't know much about the history. Which also makes me think, he's teaching this in China? China's letting you do this, dude? I sincerely doubt it.
Okay, he wasn't an aristocrat, he wasn't wealthy, but he was middle class. His kids went to private school, they had a nice house in Britain. So the question is, where did he get his money from? Well, what they say is he got his money from his partner, Frederick Engels. And where did Frederick Engels get his money from? Well, his father was a capitalist, an industrialist. Yeah. So here's a question for you.
This is not like secret. Everyone knows. They said it themselves. Capitalism paid for communism. And that's how they understood capitalism so well, because Engels, his dad was a textile merchant, ran a factory.
Why would his father, who is a very wealthy person, give Engels a lot of money to give to Marx? And Marx is calling for a world revolution to destroy the capitalists.
His father was just giving Engels money, or did he also own the textile mill? Usually that's what happens, Professor Jiang. You're not a professor, you're a high school teacher. Supposedly. And not making propaganda in the basement of Langley. Yeah, I mean, normally rich people, even if their kids are a little fart head sometimes, and sometimes will support revolutionary causes or be a little rebellious, that doesn't mean they cut them off, dude. Like, what was his name? Robert Ayers, that guy from the Weather Underground, later went on to become a professor. Why'd the U.S. let him do that? It's probably not the best example. That guy is definitely CIA. It's like Dr. Jiang. But I don't, from everything I've read of Marxist history, this is not a red flag scenario in any estimation. Engels wrote his own book, pretty much like, what was it? The working conditions of the British working class. That's how him and Marx met each other, because Engels was already super into this stuff. It wasn't like he met Marx and then got into it. That's why they published everything under both their names. They were co-conspirators, not with just one rich guy paying for the other smart dude to write books.
Why would they do that? Okay, that's kind of strange. And the third thing is that at this time, socialism was the most dominant ideology for many reasons. Okay, and the idea of socialism is that it will evolve.
I'm going to speed this up a little bit. This is taking too long. Not sleep timer. It will evolve
naturally. Okay? But Marx says, no. We cannot allow it to evolve naturally. It will not evolve naturally. We need a revolution. Okay?
Like, this guy knows nothing about, like, Karl Kautsky or, like, I think I rubbed my own contact out of my eye. No, that's a first on stream. It's bound to happen eventually. But yeah, his understanding of the history of these people. Well, maybe that's why his channel is named Predictive History, because he doesn't know past history. Once again, I just find this incredible that this guy is being allowed to teach in China and just not only get all this stuff wrong, but then talk down on Marxism. My only guess, if it's legit, is because he's speaking it in English, and maybe that's not as threatening. But I've been on Red Note. You can write it in English, it's still gonna get crushed in the algorithm. You talk crap on communism or anything political. So I don't know. How big are you in China, Professor Jiang? My guess is probably not that big. If you're even in China, which I don't think you are. But
we need a world revolution. Right? So that's a question for us. Why would he say this? Okay. So let's look at what socialism is, and then let's look at what communism is. Okay. Let's look at socialism. All right. I guess socialism is pretty simple. All right. So before you had a feudal society, and then it became industrial. Because it becomes industrial, you have lots and lots of workers. Okay. And you have capitalists. The problem, though, is that capitalism exploits labor. It makes people very unhappy. Okay, so the workers want change. Then you have the industrialists, the capitalists. The problem is that capital consolidates, okay? So maybe you have 1,000 capitalists to start, but then maybe 10 will take over all the money, okay? All the means production, the factories. Then maybe one, okay? Because that's how capitalism works. It consolidates. Which means that eventually the capitalists will turn against capitalism as well, okay? And because of democracy, because people can vote, they can then together affect political change. And this will lead to socialism. And what is socialism? Socialism is just a redistribution of wealth. Okay? A redistribution of wealth. Now,
I don't disagree with any of this yet. Not what he's written on the board. It's good so far. Let's see where this goes.
For the sake of simplicity, say there are three classes, okay? You have the rich, you have the middle class, and you have the poor. Okay? Right? So all redistribution is doing is...
That's a gross simple. I've never seen any Marxist break it down into those three. It's like bourgeoisie, petit bourgeois, proletariat, peasant class. I've never seen rich, middle class, poor. But I don't know. See where you go with
is taking the money from the rich and giving it to the poor. You understand? But because of this, what happens is the middle class improves in status and power. Okay? So if you look at the system, you would think, okay, look, the poor want the system because they have more money, they have more equality, but also the people who really want the system are the middle class because it means that over time they have more power and status than the rich, right? And this is a pretty powerful coalition. That's why socialists believe that over time, this is just a natural evolution. And this is true for most of human history, right? So after World War II, Europe didn't become communist, it didn't become capitalist, it became socialist. It had a very strong welfare system, okay? So just the natural course of human history, socialism will become inevitable. It doesn't make sense to you guys, okay? Because this is the majority of people. But Marx had problems with this, okay? Marx says, okay, all right, the major problem with this is false consciousness.
I mean, the main thing is just historically it didn't work this way. You're making it like an ideal point. Like ideally, this is how it should work, but that is not historically how it worked. Like the people you're calling socialists sold out the working class in Germany and sent them to die in World War I. That was the main cleavage point for Lenin. And Rosa Luxemburg, which is why she was killed by the socialists. The socialists killed the communists, Professor Jiang. I mean, if you don't mention that, I just feel like you either don't know what you're talking about and shouldn't be in front of a room full of people giving this talk, or you're an op.
Okay? You think that this is a natural process, but capitalists, the ruling elite, have a lot of tricks up their sleeves, okay?
Yes.
For example, they can brainwash the workers. Right? So for this to work out, you need to create true consciousness. So you need to destroy religion. You need to revamp the education system. You need to control the media, okay? Otherwise, the capitalists will use the schools, the media, religion to brainwash the workers.
The Predictive History Channel.
And also, these workers need to unite together across the world to have true power, okay? Why? Because the real struggle is one of class, okay? Consciousness. And for socialism to arise, we need to destroy class, okay? So the idea of the middle class obtaining power, that's bad. What we should have is just everyone the same, okay? Equality.
This is anti-Marxist. There was no... Marx and Engels didn't talk about equality. Like, read Engels on power. You can read Marx actually talking about how like wealth difference is relative. Like this is just babyish crap. This is someone that's never studied this topic. And I'm going to say this over and over. I find it hard to believe you're teaching in a Chinese high school if you're talking like this about Marxism.
Right? And that's the idea of Marxism, destroy all property, okay? That's the main difference between socialism and communism. Socialism...
You don't destroy property. Property still exists. It's not destroyed. It's managed by the party. The working class owns the property. It's not destroyed.
It's the redistribution of property. Communism is the destruction of property.
No.
When we do it this way, what happens is that the middle class now lose status, right? And so it's both the rich and middle class that suffer under communism, and therefore they will probably unite together against the poor. You understand? So it sounds similar, socialism and communism, but it's not.
So he's saying under communism, the rich and the middle class band up against the poor? I just historically have no idea. Is that what's happening in China? I thought there's massive poverty elimination in China. I don't know what you're talking about, dude.
And day. Socialism seems like the natural evolution of things, okay? And so it sounds right. So why is Marx screwing around this, okay? He also says that, okay, you also need a party. You also need a vanguard.
Lenin talked about the vanguard party, not Marx. This is one of the greatest things I can think of where he's obviously hasn't actually read these texts and doesn't understand them. This is a Leninist concept. Marx came up with a theory, as people have said. Marx is the arm, and Lenin is the fist. Party of a new type, the Vanguard Party. That is Lenin. That is not Marx.
An elite to destroy the false consciousness, unite the workers, and create a common society. And when they do that, when system is completely communist, then the party will give up power, and you will have a socialist paradise. But then the question then is, why would the party give up power?
Nobody ever said it is a socialist paradise. No one said that. Why would the party give up power? I mean, the argument is the party gives up power because there's not a need for it anymore. But as long as there's scarcity, there will be need for a party to prevent a resurgent bourgeoisie, property owning class that extracts from the property-less class. But this is just 1984. Like, why would they ever give up power? It's baby. It's not even baby Marxism. It's just maybe it's baby Trotskyism, perhaps.
So if a party is capable of creating consciousness, why don't they just switch to a different false consciousness? Okay. So the problem with Marx is that it's working on socialism and making it more extreme. It's also making it more confusing. And why would you do that? Okay, it's very confusing now.
No, it's not.
Right? And my argument to you is that when this happens, when an idea becomes more extreme, the intention is to discredit it, to make it illegitimate, to destroy the idea. All right? So if you think about it, according to game theory, the people responsible for communism is not Marx. The people responsible for communism are the capitalists, the ruling elite, because they want to destroy the idea of socialism. Right? They don't want this unity between the middle class and the workers. They want the middle class to remain with the nobility and the oligarchy. Okay, does that make sense? All right. So let me show how this works. All right. So in the feudal economy, you have the monarch and the nobility. Okay. And the monarch and nobility have power through three mechanisms. First of all, they control all the land. They control the military.
Why even write on the board? I can barely read what you're writing.
And they control the religion, okay? So this is the status quo. And then the peasants are the people who work the land. And this was true for most of Catholic Europe. But then with the rise of industrialism, you have new people come into power, okay? So for example, you have the bourgeoisie. Who are the bourgeoisie? Bourgeoisie are just the capitalists, the factory owners, okay? And because of the bourgeoisie, you now have the workers. And then because of this industrial economy, you have the middle class. Okay? The middle class are just like lawyers, teachers, accountants, journalists, people who support the industrial economy. Right? Now, when this happens, when you have a new groups of people emerge, you now have tension of violence, okay? And this is ultimately what led to the French Revolution, where the new order, okay, these people work together to try to overthrow the old order. And this led to the Napoleonic Wars, 7 wars fought between France and everyone else, okay? And that led to the deaths of...
So before I forget this, I would recommend anybody that actually wants to understand this, look up Babeuf in the French Revolution. B-A-B... How do you spell it? B-A-B... E-U-F, I believe. B-A-B-E-U-F. Yeah, this guy. Look up this guy. Francois Noel Babeuf was a French proto-communist. He was killed by the people that Professor Jiang is championing in 1797 because he could see that unless you abolished private property, anything won by the French Revolution was not going to help out everyday poor people. Is responsible for the conspiracy of equals. Now, does that mean everyone has equally everything? No. It was about the abolishment of private property, which was the main thing that the bourgeoisie was fighting for. But yeah, if you understand Babeuf, Thomas Paine, the American founding father, was against Babeuf because he knew it was just going to be violent. It was, bury the landlords in their castles. That was Babeuf. Thomas Paine thought, well, let's just tax people when they die based on how much land they own, since the land has been stolen from them at birth. God didn't open a land deed office and say, you get these 40 acres, and you get these 40 acres, and you get these 40 acres, and you get these 40 acres. So just by being born, everyone is guaranteed a spot on the earth. And the fact that they aren't means that their natural inheritance has been stolen from them. And those that own property should be taxed. And it's pretty much like a universal basic income. You can read this on the Social Security website. I believe Thomas Paine wrote it in 1797, I think. Maybe 1783, somewhere in there. Agrarian Justice is the name of the pamphlet. Agrarian Justice. But he addresses Babeuf at the very beginning, and he pretty much says if we don't do this plan, then Babeuf is going to win in the long run. But let's see what Jiang is saying here. So he's saying the bourgeoisie is good, pretty much. The bourgeoisie, the business owners, it's the monarchy and nobility that were bad.
Millions, tens of millions of people in Europe. It was a deadly war. And after Napoleon was defeated, all the leaders, the nobility of Europe got together and decided that from now on, we will no longer fight war. Okay, they created something called the Concert of Europe. The Concert of Europe is basically these different monarchies agreeing to resolve the differences over negotiations rather than on the battlefield. So think of it as the United Nations, okay? And it worked really, really well. The problem is that it worked too well because you're not resolving this problem, okay? You're not resolving this conflict between the new order and the old order, right? These people want to maintain the status quo, but these people, the industrial economy, wants a new order that allows for democracy, okay? Liberalism. Okay, socialism. Okay, so a more redistribution of wealth, greater participation in the political system, and the limitations.
He's not even defining these terms. Like, liberalism is all about private property. Socialism is about the abolishment of private property. Communism isn't that different from socialism whatsoever. It was pretty much like Lenin's idea of a party and taking power that way through the state. But the end goal is the same. Karl Marx's party was the Socialist Party of Germany, the SPD. It wasn't the Communist Party. He wrote the Communist Manifesto, but that was not what the party was called at the time. It didn't become the Communist Party until Lenin, which I don't even think I've heard him mention Lenin. He's saying lots of things Lenin came up with, but he hasn't even mentioned him. And all of Marxism, like Lenin's thought of all of this, came out of the French Revolution and out of the Paris Commune of 1871. Like, unless they adopted what communists later adopted, like a dictatorship of the proletariat, the bourgeoisie would just round up the socialist revolutionaries and kill them in mass. That's what happened in 1871 in the Paris Commune. So this gradualism thing, they're never going to let that happen. Not if it threatens their wealth. They're just going to rig the elections. I saw a Lenin quote the other day that said that exact thing. It was like, a democratic republic is the greatest shell for the capitalist class because they can hide behind it forever.
Of the religion, okay? So basically, the French Revolution, all right? So right now, so this system was created to avoid the French Revolution, but because of peace, the ingredients for the French Revolution are increasing, okay? And this led to something called the 1848 revolutions. 1848 revolutions. And this happened throughout the entirety of Europe, where each place there was a uprising, a combination of these people, the bourgeoisie, middle class, and workers, who called for changes in government, okay? Some places were violent, some places were peaceful. Some places focused more on democracy, some places focused more on liberalism, some places focused more on socialism, okay? All right? So does that make sense? After 1848, what the leaders of Europe recognized is that, you know what, if we don't do anything about this situation, eventually the new order is going to consume us. The new order of the bourgeoisie, middle class, and workers, this alliance is going to destroy us. So what can we do about it? Their solution is we have to divide them, okay?
So I that's what he's getting at. It's like communism is a creation of like the monarchy. Is that what you're arguing? Is that what you're arguing? That, I mean, I'd check with the Romanov family on that one. Or are you going to say it's the British? It's just, I don't know. It's just tiring to me how it's not very thought through.
Item. So before, the conflicts were about power, status, religion, okay? So the first idea is, let's create the idea that the real conflict is class, okay? So the real enemy is not between nobility and the bourgeoisie.
I mean, after the Epstein files, how is this even... It's obvious it's class, but he's saying class was made up by the monarchy. Unbelievable. Tell that to an Egyptian building a pyramid.
Okay, the real enemy is between the bourgeoisie and the workers. Okay, this is the real conflict, right? Second is that we have to discredit these people and make this movement seem extreme, fanatical, zealous, okay? And you do that by saying, okay, no property. What we want is not a more fair society. What we want is a completely equal society where no...
It's not completely equal, dude. Don't you live in China? Is it completely equal? It's just... I find this really hard to believe. I find it really hard to believe that the Chinese Communist Party will just let you get up in front of a high school classroom and speculate about why they're evil and wrong. But this would make perfect sense if you were an op for the CIA. Or maybe for the British intelligence that you're chastising here. We're almost done with this, thank God. Hang on.
No one has any money, no one has any rights, no one has any freedom. Communism, okay? And the third way you delegitimize it is saying...
Why would people fought and died for this, dude? I have another tab up here. I've just watched the entire Chinese show of Into the Great Northwest, the history of the Chinese Revolution. People fought and died. They left their family to join the communists in the north of China. They dedicated their whole life to it. It took over the whole country you're supposedly living in. What did he say? Didn't he say it takes away all freedom, all property, all freedom, all... What was it?
This is a communist, completely equal society where no one has any money, no one has any rights, no one has any freedom.
Hey, you want to fight and die in my revolution? No one's going to have any property, no one's going to have any rights, and no one's going to have any freedom. That is not what they sold whatsoever. In China, they were selling... Even the KMT was selling that. Land to the tiller. If you till the earth... You get to own the earth that you till. It's yours. And I can show you in the video on Mao's land reform. I will show you that. Yeah, here you go. So, the party shows up. They have speak bitterness meetings. They get to vote what to do with the landlord. The peasants don't like the landlords very much. Some of the particularly cruel ones didn't make it. Okay? What did they do after that? Here it is on video.
们的苦日子从此一去不回头了。
After the land
今天他们真正的翻身做了土地的
There's
主
them
人。
getting deeds to the land that they own. Well, look at that. How's that happening, Jiang? Look at that. They're measuring out the acreage. I forgot to put the video up here. Crap. I'll do this again just so you can see it. But you should just look this up. Mao's China land reform. So the party would go into the city. They'd ask the peasants to share their stories of how cruel and horrible the landlords had been to them. They'd yell at them. Then they got to vote democratically what to do with them. Sadly, many of them didn't make it. But the people seem pretty happy about it. Because afterwards, here they are.
烈烈的土地改革，们的苦日子
All
从
getting
此
their
一去
own
不回头了。
property.
今
There's the
天他们
will
真正的
being
翻身
passed
做了
out
土
to
地的
them,
主人。
one after the other. And they're measuring out the acreage. And they now own their own farm. This is the exact opposite of what happened in the Grapes of Wrath. Famous scene in the Grapes of Wrath where the bank owner comes up. Let's look at that. Grapes of Wrath scene with the bank.
Don't even break
Here you go.
even, much less show a profit. Why, one man in a tractor can handle 12 or 14 of these places. You just pay him a wage and take all the crop.
Yeah, but we couldn't do on any less than what our share is now. Well, the children ain't getting enough to eat as it is. And they're so ragged. We'd be ashamed if everybody else's children wasn't the same way.
I can't help that. All I know is I got my orders. They told me to tell you to get off, and that's what I'm telling you.
You mean get off my own land?
Now, don't go to blaming me. It ain't my fault.
Whose fault is it?
You know who owns the land, the Shawnee Land and Cattle Company.
And who's the Shawnee Land and Cattle Company?
It ain't nobody. It's a company.
They got a president, ain't they? They got somebody who knows what a shotgun's for, ain't they?
Oh, son, it ain't his fault because the bank tells him what to do.
Yeah, it's always somebody else's fault. The bank owns your farm, brother. You don't own it. The bank owns it. In China, the Communist Party, that's what they promise people. Peace. You're not going to fight any stupid wars anymore. Sounds pretty nice, huh, Jiang? I'd say that's part of freedom, is staying alive and sucking in air. You're not going to get sent to the front lines of World War I and told to, I don't know, pick up a dead guy's rifle when you get there. That's what the Russians were told before the revolution. Land, you get your own piece of land because you're a human too and you deserve one. You know, BlackRock shouldn't own the entire planet. And bread. You should have something to eat. If we're living in this wealthy society, you should at least have something to eat. In America, this is what you got.
All right. Where's the bank?
Tulsa. What's the use of picking on him? He ain't nothing but the manager. And he's half crazy himself trying to keep up with his orders from the east.
Then who do we shoot?
Brother, I don't know. If I did, I'd tell you. I just don't know who's to blame.
Well, I'm right here to tell you, mister, there ain't nobody gonna push me off my land. My grandpa took up this land 70 years ago. My pa was born here. We was all born on it. And some of us was killed on it.
And some of us will die on it. That's the next thing he says. And then in the next scene, a guy shows up and knocks his house over with the tractor. A cat, they call it. He aims a gun at him and says, I'll shoot you if you come. He goes, man, I got to feed my kids. I can't be worrying about you. And if you shoot me, they'll hang you and just have somebody here to knock your house over tomorrow. So, Jiang, I don't know what you're trying to turn me against here. I guess, okay. In China, here's what I'll get.
Make this
According to you.
movement seem extreme, fanatical, zealous, okay? And you do that by saying, okay, no property. What we want is not a more fair society. What
Didn't you just saw them being handed out deeds to their property?
we want is a completely equal society where no one has any money, no one has any rights, no one has any freedom.
You want me to pull up the Chinese constitution and read the freedoms that they have? Freedom of religion. I mean, you're supposedly living in China. I just find it really hard to believe that, dude, that they're letting you get up there and preach this revisionist filth, reactionary crap. I mean, conspiracy theory, like legit, like the monarchy rules the world behind the strings stuff. In China? Okay.
Communism, okay? And the third way to legitimize it is say that this is an international conspiracy. Okay, guys? Jews. These communists are a secret society who want to take over the entire world. So it's not that, oh, these workers just want more rights. No, no, no. These workers are tools in an actual conspiracy to conquer the entire world. They are funded by Jews, by capitalists, by the British. Who cares, okay? But they're not Germans. They're not French. They're not us. You understand? So you think about it.
I don't understand.
Communism was a psyop, okay? A tool used by the elite, by the nobility, to make the movement of democracy, socialism, and liberalism illegitimate. Okay, this is just propaganda. Okay?
I think Jiang is a psyop, not communism. But you know what? I want to go through the whole big long video next week, so that'll give me some quality of material to work through. Thank you guys for hanging out. I'm a little rusty on the streams. It's been a while. I haven't had my internet since January 6th, the day that lives in infamy, Trump. But we're back now, and try to be more regular on these things. I'm not going to get up out of this chair. I'm going to just queue up another one and get another chapter of the Epstein book down, because I think it's important. They're trying to turn us on to aliens. What was that Thomas Massey quote on aliens? Thomas Massey X. Let's see if I can pull it up. Here it is. Share this tab instead. They've deployed. Let's go back to it. They've deployed the ultimate weapon of mass distraction, but the Epstein files aren't going away, even for aliens. Here's Trump saying he's going to release UFOs. And luckily, the people responding were just one Epstein story away from Trump announcing that UFOs are real. People are totally onto this already. You are being played. Very nice. Anyway, if you like the channel and you want to support it, there's lots of ways to do that in the description. But as I always say, we're all broke, so just thank you for a little bit of your attention, and I'll be back on here in a minute with another chapter of One Nation Under Blackmail. Whitney put it up for free on her own Twitter X profile, so I was glad to see that. Information needs to get out there. Support Whitney any way you can, and if you got anything left over, you can support me. Thanks for hanging out, guys. See you next time. God bless.